So I'm going to add a new class, and it's going to be called lists. And this is definitely one where the precedence in which, or the order in which we add the classes is mattering, because this list has to exist before we can do some things in the next classes that we're going to use. So I have to make sure that you do these in the right order, as I've said so many times, or it won't work. So we need to make sure that we add this class before we go into the next set of videos. So I'm going to go ahead and add it. It's called just lists, and I won't make you watch me do that. Okay, I've made the class, I've called it lists, I've made it public, I've put my module header in, which, as you know, adds a lot of quality to the type of code that we're producing and will be a judgment point that people will make. And then up here, the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to create some new directives, or manipulate the list of directives that we have. I'm not sure we'll use them all, but anyway, so highlight that, and I've got them in the clipboard. As you know, as we go through and we use these things, we are offered the use of the helper, but I just wanted to show you an alternative sort of approach to this. At the moment I've got these, and it's showing they're not used, they're greyed out effectively, but as we pick them up we can use them, and then we can always tidy them up by using the remove unused usings when we get to here. So we'll go into the body of the code. So this is the code, I've pasted it in, and this may take 2 videos for us to go through. I'm not sure yet, we'll see how we go. Yeah, as you know, I don't like the very long videos because they just are unmanageable for you. Alright, so the first method is to get a list, and it's a static method as usual, so that we can call it from anywhere. And we're going to create a list, and we're going to create it from our text file. And we're going to get a list of character types. As you know, inside the chevrons, or the angle brackets, whatever you choose to call them, we specify what type we're going to return in our list. Our list is dynamic, it doesn't need to be sized up in advance. So regardless of where you're getting the data from, it will accommodate the number of items that you need to add to it. So first we need to state where we're going to get this list of information from. We're going to get it from this file here. Crucial, 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 crucial. You must make sure that this path matches wherever you put the ASCII text file that we created in the earlier video. So it goes through list characters equals new list of characters. So we need to get a working list that we can use. And then we're going to have a data table, which is going to be how we populate it for manipulation, or something to hold it for manipulation. And then we get that from utility characters DB, which you saw in the earlier sort of video, and we get it from the file that we find on this path. Before we start to manipulate the data, what I want to do is just to remind you what we're talking about. When we talk about character here, we're not talking about car or char or anything that's built into the system of C# languages or C family languages. These are the characters that we created ourselves as a class. Now, how we built those, as you may remember, is that we have the whole of the data information, the whole of the set of the information, and then the rules we applied to score each one of those. So this code, for example, 50 there, became 50 and 1 being the score for that particular character value. So that's what we're talking about. We're talking about these data points, not anything else that we might have built into the system. So our characters here are our own homebrew characters, and then we've got this data table we want to hold with character data. We're going to get the character data by calling our utility class and getting the character data from there, then going through each line of the file that we populate into the data table, and then just getting our list of characters by getting the data from each column of the populated table. And it's as easy as that. So that's how we create our list of characters. So let's look at what we do next. We're going to get a list of valid characters. Now the valid characters are those which don't have a score of 9. Because remember we said that there are some characters we're not allowed to use, they're not in scope or range, so we gave them a score of 9. There were lots of ways that we could manipulate that, because these are the characters up here. We could have looked for a blank, but is it a blank or is it a null? So what we did was a bit of sneaky stuff, and we said, okay, whenever it's invalid, we're going to use a code that's not going to be needed for scoring, and that was 9. We don't ever use that, as there's nothing with a score of 9, and we're going to use that to recognize where a character is invalid. So I think you will manage the logic of this fairly easy. We just get the list of characters again. When we've got this list of characters up here, we've created it. So we populate our data table, get the list from the path, and we do it twice. I know we could probably call it from there, but we're going to call it twice because it may change. So let's just do that. Then we go through, get the particular character from each row of the data that we've got, and then check if the valid, if it's not equal to 9, it's a good character, we can add it to the list of valid characters, and then we just return that list of valid characters there. So that's how we get that list of valid characters. And then there's just a bit of a twist on it, because I built this so that we may need it, we may not need it, we may never manipulate this one, called valid character codes. And it's doing the same thing as before, but in a slightly different way. We're going to use a stream reader in this particular example. So we're going through the list, and while it's true, that means while there are elements to read, so the stream reader equals a new stream reader in the path. So we're going to this and getting the whole text file from our ASCII text, which is the 2 columns. We're going through it, and while it's reading it, it'll read if there's a line of data and stop when there isn't. Okay, so we read the line, and if it's null, if it's an empty null line, we drop. We don't want it, we can't use it, so we drop it. Then this is another technique that we can use instead of data table. For each of the things that we get when we read the line, we split it, and we use something there's something we can recognize as being in every single line and a valid for split. If you think we've got a comma separating the 2 values, a comma separated value list is perfect. So we're going to use the comma to split the values out from each other. Then we do a check again to see if it's a 9. Yeah, if it's not 9, we add that character code. So we've now got a whole list of the valid character codes, and we can use that so that instead of going through the whole list, we just go through the ones we know are already valid, or we already know are valid. Trivial here. Goodness gracious, it's not something you would do, but I think it's a technique that you might want to consider in the future, because if you have a vast list, you don't want to manipulate things you can't use. So you filter them out first, then you do use that valid list to make your processing much faster if it's a very big list. Here it's really trivial, doesn't matter, but I thought it's a nice little sort of augmentation of style. So I'm going to stop this video here because it's run to 8 minutes, I think. And I think by the end of explaining the next 2 methods, it would be about 13-14 minutes too long. So I'm going to split this into the next video and then just pick up the start of the next class that we work with inside that video. So instead of just doing 1 class per video, we'll have a little bit of a mix and match.